Podge Collins is here with us. Podge, how are you?
Not too bad, no.
Not a bad weekend hurling, all told. Woodstock is how Dalo's talking about it.
Okay, well, I was golfing in Woodstock yesterday, so I thought you were going to make a reference to that. I was like, how did you know? But anyway.
Wow, yeah, okay. No, he means the crazy music festival from the 60s as opposed to golf. What did you make of the whole weekend?
I thought it was insane. I thought the two games were just, the intensity in both of them was massive, and that's, I think, what everyone's referencing to this week. Unfortunately, we always have talking points about the referees and different incidents in the game, and that just comes with hurling. It's such a fast game, and it's so high intensity that
you're with Lorcan. You think that I'm completely biased and that Hawkeye was that Brian Hogan's arm would have had to break for the ball to have gone over?
Yeah, well, I'd love to see a picture from the side like that Ozzie Gleeson incident where you can actually see the ball going over the bar, because I honestly just think that the Hawkeye picked up his hand being on line with the goals and gave the score, because like when you saw the Hawkeye replay, it was ridiculous. Like went a metre behind the goals.
Yeah, well, obviously it clearly didn't.
Yeah. So I don't know, and yeah, I don't know if it's right, but I'd love to see a camera from the side.
Yeah, I suppose if it had ended up being something which decided the game, then everybody would have been a little bit more up in arms about it, because Tipperary win, it becomes less important. I did want to talk to you about the semi-finals, right? And like, how are Wexford feeling today? Because you've been there.
Yeah, I suppose like Wexford are going to be kicking themselves big time. 5 points up, man down, and letting that slip is going to be disappointing for them. They're going to be thinking about it for a long time. People always comment about how the extra man, how getting a man sent off can either increase performance or decrease performance. You don't know how it's going to go, but like, I'm not buying that. When you're a man down, you should have an advantage, and they were 5 points up, and they really are going to be kicking themselves. Like Diarmuid O'Keefe and Liam McGovern were getting on so much ball up to that point in a like wing forward midfield position, and they were influencing the game, and then that completely element went out of their play, and the ball started going much longer, and Tipperary just crowded out the back line, and there was so much more space up in the Tipperary side of the field, and like, it just, I don't know, should they have just played the sweeper more with the last couple of puck outs, or last like 10 minutes of puck outs, and kind of built the play as they were doing throughout the game, as opposed to going direct, which kind of killed them.
For such a pre-programmed team, it was mad they went away from the programme at the precise moment when it was in their greatest advantage. When you have a lead, you can absolutely afford to sit back, clog up all the space around the tip lads, and just go, well, we've got a 5-point lead, you're going to have to come and beat us now.
Yeah, well, like they kept the sweeper, and that's fair enough, and that's what they know better than anyone. I think that's what actually gives them an advantage against most teams, because they're so used to playing with the sweeper now that a team coming against them, whether they're better hurlers or not, aren't used to playing with a sweeper. So Wexford have been practicing this for the last 3 years, so they have a distinct advantage, so I think that helps them big time. But like, a big talking point from the weekend then is that a penalty call like Rona Maher and Conor MacDonald in the second half, like in the Limerick game, that was given.
Yeah.
Where Aaron Glenn grabbed the hurley, it could have been a free out, but he gave a penalty, which Alan Kelly was probably right. He did throw him to the ground, Lawler. And then in the next game, the semi-final, the kind of same incident isn't given.
And why was it not given? Because they'd just been sending off.
Maybe.
And because it was going to decide the game.
Yeah, maybe. And like,
that's it, isn't it, though? Like, because it doesn't look like nobody seemed to have missed it. Everybody seems to have seen it at the time, but because it's just after the sending off.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. And like, maybe the day game before shouldn't have been given, even though some people are like, it's stonewall, and other people are like, no, it shouldn't have been given. It's a hard job.
Yeah. But Podge, how do you feel, or how do players feel? Like, players talk. You talk to players from your own county, other counties. How are players feeling in 2019 with the game so fast about the way the game is officiated? Do you need VAR? Do you need 2 referees? Do you just need a really good referee and the status quo? Are players happy with the standard of officiating in Gaelic games in hurling?
Well, going away from this year, from my own point of view with Clare, I definitely had no gripes or any referees from our campaign. I genuinely didn't. I think the game, the way it's so fast and it's viewed by so many people, when decisions are made and they aren't the right ones, people are very aggrieved by it. And in the especially in the Tipperary Wexford game, there was a lot of talking points, and most of them revolve around the referee. So, and Sean Clear, like, who was refereeing it, is a gentleman. He's a really nice fella.
Who also is not getting paid, by the way.
Is it the refs don't get paid?
It's put me on the spot there. I haven't refereed a game.
I presume they did, but maybe not. But he's an absolute gent.
Well, I just think they get their expenses.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But he, like, yesterday is probably very difficult for him this morning, because I haven't seen Twitter, but I'm sure if you go onto Twitter, there's going to be all commentary around his performance, and that's very tough on him, probably his family. And Like I've talked to, like he's one of the refs you can actually talk to on the field and say ask him about decisions, and I think he's a good ref. But yesterday he found it difficult. So should he get assistance? Probably. Would the VAR thing work? Maybe. I saw Tom Kenny talking about yesterday. He was talking about maybe having a referee gets like 2 challenges, something like American football. Like there's a red flag in American football, you throw the flag, you get to review the play. Maybe if a referee or a manager had 2 of them on each side, that it could.
And I think
work.
I think you can. So Owen was saying, no, what should VAR work for stuff like 65s? Like no, except in the last.
Yeah, like
except
the
in
NBA.
injury time. Yeah, in injury time, everything is reviewable because it could be decided. It could decide the game one way or another, and that's fair enough. So it's not for the whole game. Everybody understands that. But when the game is on the line and a decision like the 65 could be season/career defining, then you're going to go and take your time, have a look, put the video up for everybody in the crowd to see, so everybody there can know what's happening.
And even in the NBA, they've 7 games in the business end of it to decide it.
Yeah.
In hurling, you've 1 game, you've 70 minutes. You're training since last October, November, and then it comes down to a split-second decision. So there should be some assistance. Maybe.
Absolutely. There's 2 quick things I want to talk to you about. The point that Jamie Wall was making about the 4-week layoff for the provincial champions. It's not fair that 4-week layoff can't be a good thing for any hurling team, particularly when everybody else is off game, light training, recovery, light training, game. It's like that seems like good crack. Train again,
Yeah.
and finally play a game. It's like. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, listen, you referenced Kieran Shannon, and he's been banging that drum for quite some time. The provincial champions haven't been successful and haven't pushed on historically in Munster over the last couple of years. So
It's 2 decades worth of information there that shows that it's not a good thing to win the Munster title, really.
Yeah, no, but the Munster title, like the tradition with it is massive, and like obviously any player playing in Munster would love to win it because it is such a hard competition to win, no more so than Leinster, but it is like you saw how Limerick like.
Yeah, what if it's a handicap to actually win in the
I know,
whole thing?
but it is like I'd love to have. I don't have a Munster medal. I'd love to have one. Do you know,
That's
obviously
because you've got All Ireland now.
Yeah, I
but
know,
if-
and we actually
yeah.
got knocked out by Cork in the first round.
Exactly.
By 7 points.
Yeah.
That year, so it appears to be a handicap, and it's probably something that's going to be looked at now.
And so they should fix that, and there's a bunch of different ways to fix it. And then, like, is it just a game? Is it just getting your eye in? Is that what that difference is?
I don't know what it is. It's very hard to know. I suppose like having even let's say the year we got to the final, I can only kind of talk about my own experience playing. Is we got leashed like in a game, and we beat them well in Cusack Park, and just like that bit of game practice, it's probably the best thing for improving where you don't have to go. Probably it's not going to be as intense as. No, like since they've come on now, I wouldn't like to meet them now at the moment. Leash, like they beat Dublin this year and they look very competitive, but at the time they probably weren't as strong. But playing like the winners of Joe McDonough or something like that is something to look at, maybe.
Do you think Limerick show up on Saturday and they realise immediately that they're a little bit off it in relation to Kilkenny?
Yeah, I like what they're going to look back at is like Kilkenny shot I think 70%. Like their shooting efficiency was 70%, and Limerick's was down around 50%. I think they'd 15 wides.
Yes.
And then you look back in that game. You look back in that game then, and you're saying, why was that? Was it because Kilkenny were putting the Limerick forwards under so much pressure when they were shooting? Was it because Kilkenny weren't under enough pressure when they were shooting? And then you look at like the errors Limerick made. Some of the shots they took weren't on. There was a player behind them. Whether they like listen in Croke Park, you can't hear much, so it's a lot harder. But they will be kicking themselves. Limerick will feel that they are better than that Kilkenny side. They're going to be disappointed with their performance and losing by a point and the way they did and the amount of errors they made and mistakes they made and the wides they had compared to Kilkenny. Like Kilkenny, like 70% is in a All-Ireland semi-final is great shooting, and they're going to be delighted this morning. And the intensity they brought, it's a credit to them. And I don't know how they keep coming back. And it's the same kind of names over and over again.
How do they keep coming back?
Like I don't know, they have an excellent goalie, Murphy. But like Pádraig Walsh, unbelievable presence back there. He's great eye for the ball, great distributor of the ball. TJ Reid is just one of the most consistent hurlers I've ever seen. Like himself, Canlon, Joe Canning, probably the 3 most consistent players. Probably you could throw Pat Horgan in there as well. Great leader in that. Richie Hogan come back this year, I think has made a massive impact, even though he probably didn't have as much an impact at the weekend as he's had it this year, but having him around, and then you've got subs coming on that are making an impact, and that's probably was the deciding factor in the Tipperary game as well.
Do you see Tipperary as clear favourites?
Tipperary, I think, are favourites, but I would not say clear favourites. I'd say slight favourites.
It seemed that Kilkenny had just such a body of homework done before Saturday, not even just on the playing staff, knowing that when Paul Clare came on the pitch to get after him and to tell him to go back to back to the sideline and all that sort of thing. It's a sort of thing, I'm not sure if Clark ever experienced that in any of his previous gigs or anything like that, but Kilkenny actually targeting the selector, targeting the man who's running onto the pitch was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, like, where do you draw the line on that? I think that one player's allowed to come onto the field and they have a duty to their team and they have a job to do, and maybe, I don't know, I think that's a bit of messing, but listen, Brian Cody, I wouldn't argue with anything he does, really. He's stood the test of time, and whatever he does with teams is incredible, and the amount of credit that he deserves is just unbelievable. Like, people talking about him, would he resign maybe 2 years ago or something like that, and this is a transition period and stuff. He just deserves, like, Alex Ferguson's status, just, he really is the greatest of all time from managerial point of view.
One more question about Wexford, sorry. The freeze that they gave up, the handy freeze that Tipperary kept buying off them, allowed Tip to stay in the game at a time when, especially in that first half, when Wexford kind of got the response to the Callan goal and started to come into the game. Score after score after score from Tipperary's perspective was not a hard-won score. It was a handy free here, a handy free there, a good score, a handy free, and that just kept Tipperary in the game in a way that I don't know how a team takes that out of. Like, I don't know how you sit down at the start of the year and go, no more handy frees, lads. Like, you can't, if it was that easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, well, it's talked about in every dressing room. And during the week, Wexford would have talked about it, no handy frees, and then you get into championship hurling and the intensity is so high. And you're tired and...
do we think they're handy frees, but actually they're not? They're just mistakes that players are going to make because...
Well, like, if a player puts his hand up too high and then... like a forward, any intelligent forward, once the hand goes up, they're going to drop the head.
Yeah.
And that's, you see players leaning into tackles the whole time. It's kind of, a lot of players do it to buy frees, and it's part of the game. And like I said, the game's so intense and it's such a high speed. If you want to hit off a guy, but you just have to keep your hands down when you're doing it. There is a way to do it, but
does that come with experience? Like, Tipperary have a lot of experience forwards, so do they know how to get themselves in a position where they can win an advantage?
They probably do, but I think it was like a lot of the subs, the younger guys that came on, that
made a difference.
Yeah. Markio, Jake Morris, Willie Connors coming in, they all had an impact. And I think even if you look at the football championship, that seems to be the overriding team. Just that, like Donegal, when they're bringing in their subs, they're nearly as good. They're as good, if not better, than what's starting. They're making such an impact. Dublin the same.
Massive debate last night on the Sunday game about the philosophy of playing with the sweeper. You're well positioned to talk about this. I don't know, did you see the debate?
I didn't.
Right, so there was a general sense that Donald Cusack and Derek McGrath were talking about how Davy today is going to get criticised for the team lumping ball in on the full forward line in the last 15 minutes of the game, instead of actually sticking to the stuff that he's been criticised the entire way through, which is daring to innovate and have a sweeper. And the point fundamentally was that football has influenced hurling in a way that people are kind of a little bit loath to talk about. They're kind of a bit scared to kind of say, yes, football did influence hurling and we've taken some good stuff and we moved on. Where is the game now, do you think?
Yeah, I don't think football has influenced hurling too much. I think Davy has is an idea around the sweeper. And like, basically, like the sweeper, like I said to you earlier, it's like when you're practicing it all year and you're coming up against a team that hasn't practiced it and they have to implement it against you because you've no choice, because one player's going to go back, so you're going to have another player. But like Tipperary are actually a team that are probably, let's say, with the way we played against Tipperary in the league this year, we dropped a man out the field to midfield, maybe an extra forward, and Tipperary dropped someone back. So Tipperary put a sweeper in place, put Pádraig Maher in place as a sweeper. So they were probably more privy to it than other sides. My thoughts on it with regards to the game, a sweeper, like, it hasn't won in All-Ireland, but Wexford will be absolutely delighted with Davy and winning Leinster. So, like, you're going until the day the sweeper system wins the All-Ireland, like, people are going to be against it. But the fact that whether he's a sweeper or not, lumping the ball down is an issue of the players, as opposed to, let's say, a system. Like, the players should have kept the cool.
Yeah, that's the exact point Don Logue actually made last night, was that until it wins in All-Ireland, it will have the constant criticism around it. But like you say, it hasn't been too influenced by football. So what if it has been influenced by football? Who cares where the influence actually comes from if it's actually leading to more innovation in the game?
Yeah, well, I don't see any, like, What, like football? Okay, intense tackling.
No, it's
around the middle.
running game where you're running through lines as opposed to letting the ball do the work. You know, traditionally when we were all kids, it was like let the ball do the work. No human being can outrun a sliotar. It's true, but actually, if you keep possession and work through lines and break tackles and have support runners,
But the further you can hit the ball and the quicker you can hit the ball and keep possession, the better. So like the more you can work the ball, the better. But it's like this lumping high ball. Yes, that's gone and that's great.
Yeah.
People have got smarter. Using the ball, keeping the ball will win you the game. More possession will more than likely win you the game.
so maybe that's it. Sorry, maybe that's the description. It's keeping the ball and playing a possession game. Although the Galway hurlers in the 1980s were playing possession hurling, so I don't know if that's necessarily like Cyril Farrell's teams kept the ball. You're
Yeah,
looking
well,
at me.
I think that's just intelligent. If you have the ball more than your opponent, and if you can work the ball into better positions, you have a better chance of winning the game.